Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. It's actually the same day that I planted up these 3 stock tanks over here. So we are dealing with some rough weather. Well, rough. I mean, it's not too bad. It's just a little windy and it's a little drizzly sometimes. Not too bad, but I had finished planting those stock tanks and I was all ready to go indoors. And then I got a phone call letting me know that I was getting a plant delivery today, which is always exciting. It's like Christmas, especially these days, because these plants are perennials from Walter's Gardens. And Walter's Gardens is the company that grows perennials for proven winners. And I don't know what they do with their plants. I don't know how they do it, but they do such a fabulous job growing their plants. They must sing to them when they're in the greenhouse or something like that, because they always look so nice. And I felt especially compelled to share the perennials with you all this year because there's some really cool new ones. And when I was in England, let me see if I can block the wind. When I was in England, just a couple weeks ago, I went to RHS Wisley, which is amazing. And I had the incredible opportunity to get a garden tour of Wisley by the garden manager, horticulturist. His name is Christopher Young. He was fantastic, such a plant nerd, in the best way possible, so amazing. And he and I got talking about Walter's Gardens, proven winners, Walter's Gardens, and one of their breeders in particular, Hans Hansen. And Chris was very impressed with me that I worked with this company. So that just should tell you all the status and the high regard that the garden world holds Walter's Gardens in, and what a great job they do with breeding their plants. And that even a garden manager all the way across the world in England is super impressed, knows the breeders, and was impressed with me that I work with them. Now, I know I can't take any credit for these beautiful plants and how well they grow in my garden. It's purely the breeding and the plants. You buy the right plant, you put it in the right spot, and you are bound to succeed. And these plants make it really, really easy to succeed. What I can take credit for, though, is showing them to you all and showing you all the new varieties and the tried and true varieties that I think work really, really well in my Zone 9B garden. So what Walters will do is I'll go through and I'll talk about the ones that I really loved. Like last year, one of them that I really loved was this Bejeweled Pink Pearls Penstemon. I think this one is blooming right now over in my orchard garden. It is such a pretty color. So I asked for more of those. And then I also asked for a different color, dark amethyst, just knowing that the pink pearls did so well, I figured that the dark amethyst would do really well as well. Other ones are older varieties. I shouldn't say older. They're just more established varieties that I just haven't tried before. This one is Peachberry Ice Heuchera, and it's just one of those colors that I want to try. And Heuchera is a evergreen for me here in Zone 9B, so I thought that would be really exciting. But then they have other varieties that are brand new. For instance, we have this. Anybody recognize that? That is a lavender. And yes, Proven Winners has a new lavender. Finally, they only have one variety, or they've only had one variety of lavender, Sweet Romance lavender, for the longest time, forever, since the beginning. And they finally are releasing a new variety of lavender, Summer Serenade lavender, which I'm really excited to try. And I'm going to be trying this a lot in my back garden. I think it's starting to sprinkle. So that's a really fun one. They have new Nyphophia, which is really fun. And then this one. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this one. This one is supposed to be they do a bunch of trials. So Proven Winners in general never releases a new plant until they've trialed it to death, right? And sometimes they let, people like me try it. Sometimes they have trials in trial gardens. Sometimes they have schools that do studies on them and things like that. And, this one they've done a ton of trials on, and it's come back as basically a rock star. So they're all really excited about it, and so I'm excited to try it. It's called Treasure Trove Rudbeckia. And yes, I know it's it's Rudbeckia. We all know Rudbeckia. We can grow Rudbeckia. This one is supposed to be really magical. It's supposed to be so floriferous. I'm not saying that right. There's supposed to be so many flowers on it, and the flowers are supposed to last longer, and it's just supposed to be an amazing plant. So I'm really excited to try that one. And then I see another one back. Oh, they're even blooming. Look at that. So my summer break alstroemeria is just a rock star in my garden right now. It's blooming still. I think I planted it last June and it's still blooming right now. Let me show you guys right over here. So you can see this is my summer break alstroemeria. I am in love with this plant. It has bloomed nonstop. Not saying it's supposed to bloom nonstop because I don't think it is. I think it's only supposed to bloom in the summer, like June through frost or something like that. But mine literally has been blooming nonstop. I think I've been saying that in every single garden tour. And it's just so, so pretty. And there's buds all over them. They're just absolutely gorgeous. So this is the summer break. And then I got the summer breeze. I wanted to try the summer breeze. Can't you imagine that with the lavender? Won't that be beautiful? Oh my gosh, it'll just be so beautiful. Anyway, as you can see, all the plants here are really, really exciting. I'm gonna unbox this. I'm gonna take all the plants out, then I'll go through each variety with you guys. I've got them all unboxed and laid out and they look so good. Some of them are so tall, they won't even stand up, which is crazy. I gotta get those in the ground, but this looks so good. And this makes me so excited because this was the last main shipment I was waiting for. So I've got all my annuals, I've got all my shrubs, and I've got all my perennials. And that is really, really exciting, very exciting. I didn't really show you guys a closer look on the shrubs because some of them are like smaller and still leafing out. So not too much to look at, but I'll give you guys a closer look at those very, very soon. I was thinking I'm only going to show you guys like the highlights of the perennials, like the new interesting perennials that I got, but I'm looking through this and I'm like, that one's new, that one's new, that one's new, that one's relatively new, this one's new next year, this one's new, this one's brand new, this one is the only one that's somewhat kind of has been around for a while, I think, and then the rest are pretty much new. So let's just sit down and let's get started. So first, let's talk about penstemon. And penstemon is a Southwest native, so it's perfect for my climate. And I don't know why I haven't planted more penstemon in my garden. I planted the Midnight Masquerade penstemon over underneath my orange tree, and I planted them late last year, so I'm waiting to see how they do this year. But last year, my Pink Pearls penstemon did absolutely fantastic. And this is the Bejeweled series, and now there are, well, coming up, there are going to be 4 different colors of the Bejeweled series. And there's the Rose Rhinestones, the Pink Pearls, both of those are out already. And then coming next year to garden centers is Dark Amethyst and Lavender Sapphire. Those are the 2 new ones, which I think is so fun. So I chose to try out the Dark Amethyst. I think that this will be really beautiful, and I can already see the beautiful colors. And I just have to say, once it started blooming in my garden, it was absolutely stunning. And I have to go walk over there and see if the Pink Pearls is blooming right now, because I feel like I saw it when I was walking by this morning. I was right, they are blooming. I thought I saw little glimpses of pink when I was walking by. I was looking at the iceberg roses and how beautiful they look. And then these guys are here. So these are the Pink Pearls. This is the Pink Pearls variety. And I actually had a lot more of these all planted around here, but Monty got to them last year. So I had to take some of them out. These were the ones I was left with, which is why I got a couple more from Walters this year to add to these. And then of course, the dark amethyst color I will be trying. I think I'm putting this in my back garden, but really, really pretty, blooms a very, very long time. Let's see, hardy zones 4 through 8, which is something that I will say, I will point out, I am zone 9B, but I find that I can, because we're dry here, I can get away with a lot of perennials that are only rated up to zone 8. Cat's Pajamas Catmint. This is another example of one that's only rated up to zone 8, but as you can see, it's doing gorgeous in my garden. Quick side note, look at my Eden climbing roses. Oh, aren't they pretty? Oh my gosh, I love these. I love these. So after the penstemon, then I'm coming over here to the nepeta, or the catmint. And this is really exciting because you can see in these three, you can see how variable catmint can be with the size, the color, the shape of the plants. It's really, really interesting. And this doesn't even have the cat's pajamas, which is the one, my tried and true. It's part of my Best for the West collection. Actually, you can see some of them back there. And then I just showed you them in the orchard garden bed, but I have 4 different varieties of catmint to try in my garden bed this year. And the 2 new ones that are brand new to garden centers this year are these 2 right here. This one is called Lemon Perfection, and this one is called Catwalk Queen. And I have to say, I'm kind of the most excited about this Catwalk Queen. I think this is going to be the most interesting one because this one is supposed to be very, very low. It's supposed to be a low grower. So 10 to 12 inches as compared to Cat's Meow, which is 17 to 20 inches. It's supposed to be, and you can kind of see, it's supposed to be covered with blooms, like 80% covered with blooms, which I think is really, really neat because that's why I love Nepeta. It's just so beautiful. And it's supposed to be really good for front of borders to suppress weeds. And you all know I have that issue. You can see it right over there. I need this plant to go in the front of my borders and to keep my weed pressure down. I think that that would be huge. And I'm kicking myself that I only got 3 of them. I wish I got more of them because I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, oh man, this is just going to solve so many problems in your garden. So really cool. Then we have Lemon Perfection, and you can obviously see lemon, the chartreuse color of the leaves, which is really pretty. But the cool thing about this one's supposed to be the longest blooming out of the whole bunch. It's supposed to bloom for the longest time, and you need to think about it a certain way. It blooms for the longest time, and that means you get to cut it back less during the summer. So with Nepeta, you do want to cut back a couple times to keep it blooming, keep it going. And this one, maybe this one you'll have to cut back 3 or 4 times during the summer, depending on how long your summer is. This one you'll only have to cut back 1 to 2 times. So it's just really great in that it's going to be less work for you. So I think that this definitely has a place, and it's really pretty, and really it just glows. And I saw this one in Charlotte Owendyke's garden, which is one of the rose gardens from the Rose Ladies that I went to with Linda Knowles. She had this in her garden and it was absolutely beautiful, and she was raving about it. So anyway, so there's that one. Then we have Cat's Meow, which is kind of the biggest one, and this one I actually haven't tried before. This one has been out for a couple years, along with Cat's Pajamas has been out for many years, and I just wanted to trial these all compared to each other. I'm going to grow them right next to each other so that we really can see the differences in blooming, and it's just kind of interesting just to see them next to each other right now, even with the Cat's Pajamas, just to see where they're at right now in April. Then we have the Peachberry Ice Heuchera. Beautiful. I love Heuchera. It's such a good like staple plant to have in your garden, especially if you live in a milder climate, and then it can be semi-evergreen all year round. Some of my Heuchera is evergreen, some of it, I can't say that because I transplanted it late last year from my secret garden into my orchard garden, so I'm not totally sure which ones are going to be fully evergreen over the winter and which ones will be semi-evergreen, meaning they'll lose some of their leaves. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'm really excited about these. This is sawdust. If you guys see this is sawdust over it from the pallets, but I think it'll be really fun to plant this one, especially with something purple next to it. Speaking of purple, we have this guy right here. Isn't that interesting? So this one is called Nectar Ninja Hyssop, which is, I think, really interesting. I do want to point out this one is not available in garden centers until next year, so 2027, as is a number of these plants that I'm showing you all this year. So what I'm doing is I'm trialing these in my Zone 9 garden to see how they do. Then I can report to you guys and let you know which ones I think were fabulous, right? And which ones maybe I'm not super excited about, or maybe were a little bit harder for me to grow in my Zone 9 garden. So I will make sure and put on the screen whether they're available in garden centers or online this year or next year, or if they've been around for a long time, maybe like something like this. So anyways, Nectar Ninja, this is a new one for Proven Winners. They say that this is a really good alternative to either lavender or catmint, which when I read that, I thought, okay, that's really, really interesting, because both lavender and catmint are great plants. Maybe lavender can be somewhat hard to grow sometimes, but I'm just really interested to see how this does. It's supposed to be drought tolerant. It's supposed to have pollinators all over it all the time and have this beautiful purple color like all through the summer. So we will see how this one does. I have to say, is it this? Oh, it's this. Never mind. This has an interesting smell to it. This has an amazing smell to it. So this is the new lavender, Summer Serenade lavender for Proven Winners. The first new lavender in about 20 years since Sweet Romance lavender. I should have got a Sweet Romance lavender and compared the two, done a trial of the two. But this one is supposed to be easier to grow. It's supposed to bloom longer, and it's supposed to smell better. People report that it smells better. So we will see how this does. But I was thinking, what about these around my fountain? Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be really pretty? And I think they would like the heat up against the cast stone. I'm thinking these might be a really, really good option for around the fountain. So we'll see how the Summer Serenades do compared to the Sweet Romance lavender. I love both of them. I wish Proven Winners would come out with a Spanish lavender, because I love Spanish lavender, but I'm interested to see how this Angustifolia lavender does. Then we have these, which don't look like anything, but I'm probably the most excited about these out of all of these plants. These are, I'm going to butcher this, Muhlenbergia capillaris. These are Prairie Winds candy floss. So one, it's another grass in the Prairie Wind series, and I love the Prairie Wind series of grasses that Proven Winners has. The Niagara Falls Prairie Winds is one of my favorites. I love, love, love that grass. So when I saw this one was coming out, I'm really excited about it, because it's going to have these pink plumes that are just going to be so beautiful and so airy and look so gorgeous. And I've seen this grass in other gardens before, and I just think it's going to be really, really beautiful in the garden. So doesn't look like much now, but just think of it during the summer and the fall, how gorgeous it's going to be. I'm excited to try out these and see how they do in my garden. Then we're coming over here, and we are coming to the Alstroemeria. So these over here are my summer break Alstroemeria that I absolutely love. And then these are the Summer Breeze variety, which is the same type of plant, but just a different color. So very exciting about this. I actually owe Nancy Greenlee one of these. She's the woman she's the bulb lady of Sacramento. I did a garden tour with Greg at her garden, and I was telling her about how great these are, because she wanted Alstroemeria that was taller, and these are a little bit taller than normal Alstroemeria that's very, very short. So I have to reserve one of these for her. I have to remind myself not to plant all of them, but they are so pretty, and again, they bloom for so long. Such a gorgeous plant. I really only can attest to the Summer Break variety, but I have a feeling the Summer Breeze is going to be just as good. So I will be interested to see how these do, and I will keep you all updated, of course. Okay, so then we have the Nyphophia, which are these two right here. These are samples, which is why they're not in the Proven Winners pots. And then these, you can see, are so ready to be planted. I did see one bloom over here. There we go. So pretty. So these are called the Rise and Shine series, and one of them is Citrus Sunrise. That's the yellow one. And then Mango Mimosa. I think that's the kind of burnt orange one over here. The Mango Mimosa is supposed to be a little bit shorter than the Citrus Sunrise, as we can see. But the interesting thing about this one is that the foliage, which you guys can see right here, is a lot thicker than other Kniphofia foliage. Other Kniphofia foliage is really, really strappy and very thin, like on my favorite variety, which is Orange Blaze Kniphofia. It's a lot smaller, a lot thinner, and these are a lot thicker, which I think is going to be really, really interesting to see how they grow and to see how it looks like with the plumes. But I already have Kniphofia. I have my hot and cold Kniphofia blooming just behind my penstemon, and then my Orange Blaze Kniphofia is not quite blooming yet, but these guys are supposed to bloom even earlier. They're supposed to be even earlier bloomers. So that'll be fun. Of course, we won't be able to see how early they bloom this year. That will be something to see next year, but I think it'll be really fun. And these are not in garden centers yet either. As you can see, they're still just samples for me to try. And then finally, we have the Treasure Trove Rudbeckia, which I think is going to be so fun to try out. It's supposed to branch a lot better than other Rudbeckias. Some Rudbeckias just get really tall really quickly and bloom at the very tips. This kind of blooms in a big mound, which I just think is going to be really fun. I always think if Proven Winners or if Walters Gardens adds a plant to their Proven Winners collection, not their Proven Selections, their actual Proven Winners collection, you know it's going to be a good plant and it's going to be better than other varieties that you've tried otherwise. So I'm just so interested to try out this plant. And I will tell you all a little sneak peek. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be talking about this yet, but if you're not familiar with the Easyscapes that Walters Gardens puts out and Proven Winners Perennials puts out, go look up the Easyscapes because they're really, really fun and really interesting. What they are is they're collections of plants, perennials and some shrubs, and basically they put together collections that are going to bloom for a long time, give you great color, give you color that comes back every year. Basically any problem that you have in your garden, whether it's you have a shady area or you have too much sun or you don't have a lot of water or you have a lack of color or anything like that, they have figured out a collection of perennials and sometimes shrubs that you can put in that area. Very easy. You just go to the store, you pick up those plants or you order them online, throw them in your garden and you're done. Anyway, the reason why I'm telling you guys this is I am coming out with my own Easyscape garden collection, which is really fun. And it's called Janie's Jewel Box Border. And of course, Treasure Trove Rudbeckia is one of them, as are a couple of these other ones. So I will be planting that and talking more about it later on in the season. I have a couple more plants that I need to get for that collection, but I'm very, very excited about it and I cannot wait to share with all of you. And a huge thank you to Walters and Proven Winners for sending me these. And a huge thank you to you all for watching these videos. I love that you guys get as excited as I do about the new plants that are coming out, the new interesting varieties, and even Chris Young from RHS Wisley, he gets excited too. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.